Terrines are among those French dishes that a lot of people have the wrong idea about. They think they're heavy and old-fashioned, they think they take all day to make, that they taste weird. That's not so. I'm making a rustic meat terrine, old-fashioned and hearty, a vegetable terrine in 5 layers, surrounded by pretty green leaves, salmon rillettes, spreadable, a dessert terrine, citrus fruits just gelled together, they're like a sunset, and a blue cheese terrine that you don't even need a terrine dish for. By the time I'm done with you, you'll be dreaming terrines. I'm making is a country terrine with different meats in it. I love those because they're so hearty. There's nothing like a slab of that on a piece of bread when you're peckish. I've got the oven on to 350 for this. I'm just starting with onion because onion is of course the aromatic that will give the terrine extra flavor. I understand terrine fear because I used to have it too. It's just not the kind of food you see everywhere, so you think, oh, those meat things full of weird livers and things, but they taste fantastic. And it stands by you. You eat a slab of pâté, you're not going to go snacking afterwards. In the markets in France, in the countryside, you can get all kinds of pâtés in terrine. You can get goose, you can get duck, you can get rabbit, you can get pork, you can get the endless kinds. The word terrine comes from earthenware dish. This is a pâté dish, but I'm using it because it's so cute and rustic. I'm just going to put a splash of cognac in there. Now my meats. I'm using 3 kinds. I've got ground meat, and you can get it fresh and just get the butcher to grind it for you. That's what I did. I've got pork and veal, both light white meats. And I have liver. This is beef liver. Don't be scared. It helps the texture, not just the taste. It makes it smoother, more smeary. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's really as simple as meatballs. Some breadcrumbs to hold it together. Breadcrumbs help bind the mixture, but they also help lighten it, because if you have all meat and it just sticks together, it can be heavy. So just a little bread helps give it a little elbow room. Same with egg. You won't even notice it's there. Parsley and thyme and chives, that's enough. I'm going in. Some things you just have to get your hands into if you want it mixed really well, and this is one of them. Just in case I decide to flip it out, I'm going to put 2 bay leaves on the bottom so it has a little decor. I want it packed down, but I don't want too much meat. And I'm baking it in a bain-marie, a water bath, and that helps keep the cooking really even. You fill it so it comes halfway up the sides of the pan inside it. And then you give it about an hour and a half. You need to leave a terrine in the fridge for a little while so that it can firm up nicely. Beautiful. It's so cute. A nice hearty slice. It's very meaty, but that liver all through it makes it just a bit more smooth. A nice country loaf, a good bite of pâté, a bit of mustard, makes my day. The liver makes it, honestly. If you're not a meat eater though, there are terrines for you. I have a vegetable one that's 5 layers of creamy vegetable all wrapped up in pink chard leaves. Country Terrine is so good. But if you don't like meat, I have an excellent vegetable terrine. This is a vegetable terrine that has 5 layers of creamy vegetable mixture all wrapped in chard leaves. So I'm just going to drop these leaves into the pot of boiling water. They need just a few seconds. The salt in there is going to help them stay a beautiful fresh green color. You're not cooking them, you're just softening them, right? Then these go right out and into an ice bath right away so that the color sets and they stop cooking. You got to handle them delicately because they're very fragile. Look how beautiful that is when the light comes through it. Can you see? Okay, now my fillings. I need this blender. Is that clean? I've been making these purees, so you have to rinse it after each one. I have red pepper puree, carrot puree, cauliflower puree, and pea puree, baby food. These all have 4 ounces of vegetable and then a 1/4 cup of cream and an egg. So I'm going to do the same thing with Parmesan cheese into the blender with a 1/4 cup of cream and an egg. Got my leaves, looks like textile design. And this is a classic terrine mold. I've just lined it with parchment and now I'm going to line it with leaves. It's so elegant looking, but it's very light, just vegetables. It's got dinner party written all over it. So I'm going to layer up the vegetables. This is the thickest and heaviest, so I'm putting it on the bottom and I'm spooning it in. The cauliflower, it's the next heaviest. Also think about color when you're layering them up. If they're too close in color, you won't see the difference. You want stripes. And if they do run one into the other one, don't worry, it's just like tie-dye. Now I think I'll put the cheese in over top. And finally the red pepper. Now I'm doing what I said not to do. I put a lighter one under the pepper, but that's okay. I don't mind a few swirls. If you don't have a terrine, you can always just do this in a bread pan. Works just as well. I do that all the time. And then just fold the leaves over top. Now into the bain-marie. That'll need about an hour. And while that's cooking, I'll make some salmon rillettes. It's not strictly a terrine as a dish. Rillettes really means pork or goose meat shredded. Meat that's cooked for a long, long time and gets shredded with lots of fat, so it's spreadable. This is sort of a cheater's version. I'm using a shallot because it's nice and fresh tasting, and it's good raw, which is how it's going to stay in this. I used to make fun of my old cooking teacher because she always used to call things folkloric. So whenever something looked kind of a mess, she'd say, "It's folkloric." This is going to be folkloric. Some tarragon, which is the quintessential French herb. Breaking it in half. Drop it in. Add the butter. And this will make it all nice and creamy and smearable. A spoonful of creme fraiche, which is that wonderful cream that's not too sour but not too sweet. It's got a bit of tang, and I like that taste in here. And mash it, just using 2 forks. Shred it really first. And if you want it rustic, if you want it folkloric, I mean, then use forks. Pretty pink. One fun thing to do is to make a little flower. The chive makes a stem. Tarragon leaves make leaves. Now if I just had a chive blossom, I'd put it right there, but I don't. So what do I have? Isn't that cute? And then put them in the fridge to firm up. Now my terrine. And when it comes to room temperature, I'm going to put it in the fridge and it has to sit there for hours and hours. In fact, preferably overnight, because that way it firms up. But anyway, I have other stuff to do. I have to mow the lawn. That terrine should be ready. When you first take it out of the oven, if you cut it, of course, it's too sloppy to cut. That's why if you can leave it overnight, it's better. Layers. Hop. I don't even garnish it. You can if you want to. Some people use a sauce, but I really don't think it needs it, and I like things in that pure state. It's so smooth and delicate. I think that's really very sophisticated, despite its simplicity. And my little pot of salmon. You can serve it on bread or on crackers. You should just be able to smear it along like that. I love the tarragon, and the salmon is really pale. It doesn't have that ferocious attack of smoked salmon in there. It's a great beginning to dinner. And I have a good ending to dinner. A citrus terrine that's just held together in a gel, and it looks like a sunset. I love how in France they care so much about display and about making each little food thing look so beautiful. Every single one was made with so much care, you can just tell. It just makes you want to buy them all. This is a pastry shop actually that's a very famous one. They sell chocolates and they sell some prepared foods that you normally would find in what are called traiteurs or catering shops. They sell all prepared foods, and you can also get them at the butcher. People eat a lot of terrines in France, and they're sold in lots of different stores. They have very typical ones. They have rabbit terrine and duck terrine. They have more sophisticated foie gras terrine, which is the king of terrines. And then they have even a seafood terrine. Saint-Jacques means scallops. And they have a vegetable terrine, which are increasingly popular because terrines are considered quite, substantial. So it's nice to have some light versions. So there are all kinds of options. You just have to open your mind to the world of terrines. It's no good having limited ideas about what French terrines can be. There are all kinds of options. You can have the really rustic, meaty, old-fashioned kind. You can have little pots of pâté. I did salmon rillettes. You can have vegetable terrines, and you can have dessert terrines. I'm making a citrus fruit terrine, and it's just layers of citrus fruit held together by just a little bit of gelatin with white wine. You need fruit sections from the oranges and grapefruits first, because what you want to do is cut off the membrane part outside the sections and just expose the flesh. I'm using pink grapefruit for flaming sunset color. You could also use blood oranges, or you could use white grapefruit. This is a nice terrine too because it doesn't need any baking. The size of the sections don't matter either. Squeeze that out. It just goes in the fridge. I'm breaking my own record. That's 8 oranges and 6 grapefruit. Whew. See that nice pink juice, how pretty it is? Looks good in the terrine too. So I want 1.5 cups of that juice in the pot. I want 1 cup of sugar and 1 cup of wine. I want this to come to a boil, and I want my gelatin to dissolve. 4 envelopes of gelatin. Just sprinkle it over the remaining 1/2 cup of juice to soften. And now I can line the terrine with fruit. I don't have a terrine for this. I have a big bread pan or cake pan. I've just lined it with plastic wrap. If you don't want to use citrus fruit and you want something else for summer, you could do other fruits too. This would be great with berries, for example. Think of strawberries and a little mint in there. Okay, that's hot enough. I'm going to add the gelatin. It's nice and soft. And now I want it to dissolve, just like the sugar. If I pour it over the fruit now, it will cook the fruit, and I want it to stay fresh, so it needs cold liquid. Okay, so I'll just leave that to cool for about half an hour, and once it's down to room temperature, I can pour it over the fruit. I just realized that I always try to describe food and I keep saying delicious. I'm sick of delicious. Delicate, delightful, delicious. Highly delightful and enjoyable. Savory, toothsome. I like toothsome. Tasty, boring, appetizing, boring. Palatable, too unenthusiastic. Scrumptious, yummy. Here's my favorite, scrummy. Oh, I'm going to say everything's scrummy from now on. It's set. You can't take it out too soon. It's so hard to wait because then it's all runny if it's too early. Flunk. That is magnificent. Isn't that stunning? I can't imagine anyone complaining about getting that for dessert. Certainly not me. Scrummy, not delicious, scrummy. But a great terrine, even if it isn't a true terrine. And I have another one that's not a true terrine, a blue cheese terrine. Anyone can make that, and you don't even need a terrine pan. I have a whole day of French terrines. And this one's Cheater's Terrine. It's a blue cheese terrine, and I'm using Roquefort cheese. That's one of the great French cheeses with AOC status, which means that it comes from a certain place and it has to use only the milk from cows who graze in a certain region, and it must be aged in the caves and the blah, blah, blah. And I like it because it's very tangy. There's another cheese that would be good for this. It's really hard to find. It's called Bleu de Gex. And I've only seen it once in the south of France, and I always wanted to find it again because it's really ultra creamy. But there's also Bleu d'Auvergne, Bleu d'Écosse, all kinds. But this is the star of them all. Aged in the calves of Roquefort. Now I'm adding a little Italian cheese to this one, mascarpone, because it's really very creamy and it doesn't compete with the taste of the blue. It just smooths it all out. Kind of loosens the blue up a bit. Now also a little honey. Just adds a nice flavor, and it goes well with dried fruits, which are about to bejewel the cheese. You don't want too much. You don't want it sweet, sweet. And this is a light honey. Now I'm going to add various fruits and nuts. I love dried figs. We always used to eat them this way growing up because we didn't get fresh figs, and now you can, and I still like the dried ones better. Figs and cheese are pretty classic too. Let me see how this looks first of all. Apricots, same word in French, abricot. Figs, same word in French, figue. Pistachios. I'm just chopping them a bit, not too small. I just want to see that emerald green interior. Oh, I just love this. I love the colors. And walnuts, because I love walnuts. and some currants. I love the beady-eyed look of currants. They seem so exotic to me. Just want it stirred through evenly. This is more of a log than a terrine. But if you've never made a terrine in your chicken, this one's for you. So then just wrap it with the plastic wrap. And then you can shape it however you like. And I'm shaping it like a little terrine. It goes in the fridge until it sets. I'll give it an hour. It's very festive, all those fruits and nuts flecked through the creamy blue. You see, you don't have to stick to just the classics. There's a huge variety of French terrines. But you can start with a country terrine, rustic and meaty with liver, a 5-layer vegetable terrine covered in charred leaves, salmon rillettes, a citrus fruit terrine with grapefruit, orange, and sweet wine, and blue cheese, fruit, and nut terrines. See? I told you you'd be dreaming terrines.